Hey friends, welcome to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. The title of this episode is Leadership Tools for Soulful Speaking. And in this episode, I'm so excited to be speaking with Lauri Smith, who is an intuitive public speaking and leadership coach and the author of Your Voice Matters, a guide to speaking soulfully when it counts. So Lauri, thank you so much for coming on. For the audience hearing you for the first time, can you give them a little bit more about your background and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. I've been getting here my whole life. I'll try not to take too long with the story. When I was about 7 years old, 6 years old, something like that, my mother found me in our backyard playing make-believe by myself. I had been like playing make-believe with some friends and they got bored and went on to the pool. And I loved the story part of it. So I said, okay, I'm going to finish the story. You guys go ahead and I'll meet you later. And my hair was curled up in little pin curls. I was trying to make myself look like Cindy Brady from the Brady Bunch. And my mom kind of went, I think I'm going to take her to an acting class. And in acting, just like most things in life, there is a light side and a dark side of theater. Mm-hmm. And I've surrounded myself intentionally and accidentally with more of the light side. And theater was really the first place that I felt safe to really be myself. And then to channel that full me into different characters. And when I was about 27 years old, working as an executive assistant in the Silicon Valley, I was doing theater at night and working way too much overall. And I kept feeling this pull to go toward theater and toward a more aligned life. And at first I kept saying no. And one person even tried to point me toward jobs as a voice coach in the theater. Mm-hmm. Incredibly involved in what I do now and incredibly close to what I do now. And I still was like, no, because the ones I had didn't really work for me. I wasn't getting, you're supposed to go do this so you can do it differently, so you can do it your way. And I had an experience in an acting class, my favorite one ever, where we were doing an exercise and everyone was focused on me instead of having it split between like 3 or 4 people. Mm-hmm. And I kept like pulling myself together and putting on that I'm fine mask in between these little chunks. And Richard, the teacher, paused, as he had to do quite a number of times over the years with me, and said, whatever that is that you're doing, stop doing it. Just be with whatever is happening for you and connect with the other people and stop trying to pull it all together. And I said, I'm not that comfortable having everyone's eyes on me. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, then you've picked a strange set of careers for yourself, haven't you? Part of you knows you're meant to be here. Part of you wants this. And I took the leap and continued with the exercise. And it was like layers of all those masks and armor and protection melted away. And at the end, I now know it was my first moment of oneness that extended beyond the acting part. I'd felt it before when I was in character. And there were other little chunks and whispers on the way of friends saying, I think you should go toward coaching. I think there's something with voice for you, that led me to create a business helping other leaders show up as themselves and be seen and be heard in order to share their magic with the world.
And isn't that so true? We all just kind of want to be seen and be heard. And sometimes we get stuck on how to really break through and show up as our authentic self and not be afraid. Even for me with this podcast, it's stepping out of my comfort zone and speaking and having my voice heard. But just like you, I want to be seen, but I'm also don't want all eyes on me.
Yeah.
So I totally relate to that feeling. I have this vision of wanting to be on the stage and doing stuff, but then I have that other side that I need to work through. And, be more courageous and all that. So I totally agree with you in that. And that's why I'm glad that we have people like you to help lead the way and pave the path for people who are feeling a little bit stuck in their voice and expressing what matters in an authentic way. So kind of like going into your book, what made you want to write this book? How can people get their hands on it? I think it's a great tool for people wanting to work on this for themselves.
Yeah, it started with an intuitive nudge.
Mm-hmm. As always.
Yes, as always, and it was a big one. So my first response to it was, no, I'm not a writer. I am a writer, and I got drawn to do it because a lot of my clients are the introverts, the highly sensitive people, the empaths who might not find me and find the help that they might want in a workshop, which is what I was doing at the time, in-person workshops. So I finally said yes when I realized some of the people that need what I have to offer would really prefer to kind of get to know this whole other way of approaching speaking
Mm-hmm.
with a blanket and a cup of coffee sitting by the fire. And then they'll step out once they've kind of gotten to know what is this. And there is a very different approach to speaking than I've started calling it industrial speaking,
Mm-hmm.
kind of what we all grew up with, the like one size fits all factory churning out, here's the stuff, try it, now go out into the world and do it. And people wonder why it doesn't work, and it doesn't feel safe to some of us.
Mm-hmm.
So the book was really to kind of help people get to know it in a different way. And then I got to know my clients more deeply because I feel like my soul's first language is talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like I had to translate that into writing. So I understood that much more deeply. And for many of my clients, they can write. And when they want to get up on a stage, they need to translate from their soul's native tongue, which is the written word, into the spoken word.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that it's like, yeah, it can feel like you're learning German when you've never spoken it before.
Exactly. So what are the visionary leadership must-haves? Did I say that word right?
It was visionary. It was a typo.
Oh, okay. So what are the visionary leadership must-haves?
Yeah. If someone is a visionary, sensitive visionary, ambitious empath, loving rebel, in order to lead, they need to have a vision for the world or their world to be improved in some way.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be able to creatively navigate from being present in the present moment toward making that real, which is different than resisting or fighting the world as it is. And then the final thing is to be able to communicate that dream or that vision for a better world in a way that inspires other people to join you on the journey to make it real, and even to step forward from being maybe a reluctant leader or someone who wouldn't call themselves that,
Mm-hmm.
into behaving like a leader, even if we're like a leader with a capital L, a leader who's a soul leader themselves.
Okay. And then so what do you want people to know about presence and speaking?
Presence is more important than the content. Most of the time, we spend our time and energy on what am I going to do? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? What are my slides going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to help inspire people or transform people, your presence is not in the outfit that you wear. Your presence is not in the slides that you choose. Your presence comes from your soul, and that can come across on your voice and in your energy when you speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then the words that you choose are almost icing on the cake. They can emerge from the moment, from the connection between you and your listeners.
Yeah, I know. It is so true. It's all about the presence. I did take acting class a little bit, and he would always say, I wasn't a very good listener. He would always say, it's not about the words. The words don't really matter. It really is about the presence and like, are you listening and how are you reacting? And it's so true. You can totally tell from like when you look at speakers up on the stage, just some people have this presence and you're just more in awe with them on the stage, and you're listening what they're saying, but you're more infatuated with how they're standing and the way that they're presenting the information and the confidence within them. It makes such a difference to have that when you step out on the stage.
Yeah. And for an actor, that deep presence starts with your scene partner, really listening to how are they saying it today. And for a speaker, the audience is like, they're your scene partner and they're your audience. So it's about deeply listening and being present with them, and what facial expressions are coming across, what's the body language, where are they taking breaths, and things like that.
It's very vulnerable too, and that's one of the things I learned is like the vulnerability of like opening up and acting. I don't know how to explain it, but it really does translate into public speaking because you're being vulnerable and having your message out on the stage. Like you said, you can have fear of like criticism or backlash for what you're saying, or thinking people are judging you. The list can go on with all your fears in your mind, but it really is like a vulnerable place to be, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we really do take off the masks and open up and be seen and let people in. And for in theater, if you're an actor, a lot of times you're only doing one job and a speaker's all three. It's rare for an actor to write their own play and then star in it. It does happen. And it's really vulnerable. I did a monologue from a play I wrote once, and it was the most vulnerable thing I had ever done. And as a speaker, you're the writer of your own thing. You're the one who's going to get up on stage and say it out loud to people, things that you deeply, deeply care about. And then sometimes you're having to direct it yourself too. What are the slides going to be? When am I going to pause? And the really vulnerable parts are this is my message. If you're an entrepreneur, this is my message. This is precious to me. I believe in this. It's like vulnerable to the 10th power.
Exactly. So what are some ways that people can kind of drop this protective mask? What tools can they use today to be a little bit more confident in speaking their truth soulfully and not being shy up on the stage and just being the boisterous person they want to be?
I like to give people 3 words because 3s are so sticky for our brains. And then people can use it almost like a mantra. And I'll break down a little bit of what it is. The 3 words are intend, align, invite. Intend is setting an intention for what you want the audience to feel when you're done, or the vibe you want in the room. And that's different than what we tend to do. We usually tend to focus on what we don't want to happen. Like our inner critic takes charge without us knowing it, and is going, I hope I don't forget what I'm going to say. I don't want to set anyone off. I hope I don't mess it up. Even feel this in your body, and the listeners can feel this. If we focus on, I want to create a feeling of hope in the room. And then we align our body, our breath, our energy with our most expressive self, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. And then the inviting is looking and feeling, listening to that nonverbal half of the conversation for signs of that hope happening. So a crowd going from hopeless to hopeful, which again, if we walk out on stage thinking, I hope I don't set anyone off, then we're looking for signs that we're doing that.
Exactly.
So I want to create a feeling of hope. I'm going to look for signs of that. And the aligning the body, breath, and the energy, quick preview. or a quick taste of it, is to feel like you're standing upright with your heart open and a balance of effort and ease in the body. It's having a slightly deeper, more nourishing breath going through your body. And then the energy is imagining that you have an energetic set of arms that can actually hug the audience. Intend, align, invite.
I love that. Those are really great mindful tools to use. I love that. So what would you like people to take away from this episode?
Ooh, I would like for them to know that they are enough exactly as they are. They are charismatic when they let the masks and the armor go and really connect to people. And it's the title of my book, Your Voice Matters. We have been hearing, as a society on, many societies on the planet, we've been hearing from the same voices. It's almost like humanity is a big human orchestra, and the string section is not playing, or only parts of the string section are playing. So the drums are trying to play louder. We really need to hear from some of the people that have been quiet, that have not been sharing in their way, their unique charisma, in order for the world to become a better and better place.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great answer because, we're all here in this time period for a reason. We all have a purpose, and sometimes our purpose is to be out there talking, helping change the world, but yet we always have that fear. One of the things I've learned with talking with a bunch of people is if you have a desire for it and you are afraid to go after it, go after it. It's most likely meant for you. And part of the journey is overcoming the fears and proving to yourself that you can do it and anything is possible. So I think that that's a great message for people to take away from this episode. So, Lauri, I have 4 questions I ask all my guests, and I would love to know what your answers are. My first one is, who and what inspires you?
I have to answer this. The way you just spoke about going for the dream, like I was meant to hear that message from you today, because I'm a leader, I'm a speaker, and I'm human.
Yeah.
So sitting in like a new and scary thing that I'm called toward. So I feel like in this moment, my answer is, you just inspired me with that message. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So my second question is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
I wish I knew that I belonged, even though I was different.
Yeah. No, that's a great message. Totally. Especially for people growing up when, and I know I felt that way, like I feel different, why doesn't anyone, like me type of thing. But, you always belong, you find your tribe, and, we grow out of that.
Yeah.
So my third question is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
Meditating. Meditating, and as soon as it becomes like, I got to check that off my to-do list, feeling in for what's the aligned way to do that now.
And my fourth question is the best advice you've ever received.
Ooh. One from a director from years ago popped into my head. He was giving it about acting, and yet it comes back around in life. He said, always make the choice that leaves you with the most options available after that choice. So as an actor, if you make a choice where it feels like, well, now I'm kind of stuck in one thing for the rest of the play, it feels handcuffing, versus making the choice that feels like, now I'm actually liberated and I have access to my full spectrum. And that's come back around in my life as well, make the choice that feels like then it's opening up to liberation and possibility rather than, oh, now I'm stuck.
No, that's a really great perspective and a great way to look at decision making, and knowing that no matter what decision you make, you have options to twist and turn and make different decisions based on that one decision you made. Because I know sometimes we can get stuck like, did I make the right decision? Is this the right thing for me to do? But know that like it's just one decision to the next decision. And there's so many other options that you can choose from after that initial one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Lauri, thank you so much for coming on this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. All of her links are down below in the show notes. Don't be shy. Go say hi. And I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Thank you.